KCAA 102.3 FM Riverside.
Good morning, hello, good evening, whatever time it is when you pick up this broadcast, podcast. I am Wallace Allen. This is Empire Talks Back. Empire Talks Back is brought to you by the West Side Story newspaper, the Improve Association, and Covered California. We're going to take a very short break, and we'll be back to start our show. As you go into the break, I want you to ask yourself a question. What is love? And let me tell you what it isn't so that you'll know which way we're going. Love is not sex. You do not make love by having sex. We'll be back right after this break.
Missed something today, yesterday, last week? Check out our podcasts at www.kcaaradio.com. We leave no listener behind.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
I never planned on losing my job, but we all know life can change in an instant. And losing my family's health insurance was an even tougher pill to swallow. So I looked into Cobra, but too pricey. Then I found out I could enroll through Covered California, where I was able to choose from good health insurance companies I've actually heard of. I even got help paying for it.
There's a limited time to qualify after losing your insurance, so check out CoveredCA.com today. Covered California. It's more than just health care. It's life care.
The other station claims to be local. Since when is Glendale local? KCAA, your true local station.
Good morning. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen here on the case for truth and justice with the right information to help improve the situation. Before the break, I asked you a question. I want you to think about this because, well, I'm blessed in that the program before mine is presented by Reverend AC, and he is, you know, I catch his spirit when I walk through the door, and he pretty much always kind of alters my show for me a little bit. And I think it's important for us to ask this question and deliver the answer. The question is, what is love, and what does it have to do with anything and everything? Well, it is not sex, and I think that's important because I'm going to introduce you to someone in a moment who has demonstrated his love for the children of the Inland Empire for years. And he's not a pervert, and it doesn't have anything to do with sex. When I say I love the Lord and you hear anyone else say they love the Lord, that's not because they're thinking about sex. You may have a problem looking at someone and telling them you love them because you've got sex on your mind. Love is not sex, and sex may or may not be an expression of love. But folks, for us to so often use the word and not have a real understanding of the definition of how expansive love is and what it means to be able to deliver it, to be able to accept it, and not get all hung up in what man talks about. I don't know if it's designed to keep us confused because there's so many things of misinterpretations that are designed, or they keep us confused and keep us apart and keep us antagonizing each other instead of absorbing the love thoughts that each of us have about the circumstances that we're so devoted to and so passionate about. I want to introduce you to a man, Mr. Walt Hawkins. He has a company called New Hawk. Walt, I can tell you my impressions, but before I get into that, I'd like to have him come online and let's do a proper introduction. Mr. Walt Hawkins, how are you this morning?
Hey, I'm doing fine, Wallace.
Good, good. Bring Walt on down here. Very good. Walt, we're involved. I got an email from you talking about the enrollment at San Bernardino at at Cal State San Bernardino. I opened it up, and I note right away that I'm getting some information from an expert. Give me a little bit down on the hello. Give me a little down on the volume in here. The music. Turn the music down just a little bit. Okay, Walt Hawkins, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that you are a past member of the Rialto Unified School District Board, and I know that you love our children. I know that you love your fellow man. I know that you love your family. I know you love your community. I know that because of the things that I see you do. Tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us a little bit about what makes Walt Hawkins the man he is, and then we're going to get into covering some of the things that you covered for us.
Yeah, well, first off, I guess, like you've been saying, it's a good thing is I've been very blessed over my life, and that's just a good thing for me. And again, it's a responsibility of giving blessings back, and so I've received them, and I try to give them back. But basically, I grew up in the high desert, went to college in San Diego, and got my degree in master's in social work with a focus on community organization, and I'm a demographer.
Could have been a president, community organizer. Anyway, I was just
So I came back to the area in '74. Started working at Cal State San Bernardino. I was director of the Upward Bound program and Summer Bridge, and I responsible for doing the recruitment for educational equity, which at that time meant underserved students who were primarily low income and Black and Latino students for the university, and a lot of white students who were low income as well. A lot of people didn't realize that. So in equity, it included folks who were low income who had the opportunity to go to the university. So I did that job for 17 years, and then my last 17, I was director of research and policy analysis, and my office was responsible for doing all the evaluations of our outreach and our retention and graduation data, as well as serving on the President's Enrollment Management Committee, where we developed the goals each year for the university and made sure that we focused on students who were underserved and that we had targets to serve all the students in the region.
Walt.
And since then, I've been retired since 2007, and I've just been having a lot of fun.
Walt, you have a background that, you explained much of your professional movement there, but there's a reason that you're concerned about disadvantaged, least served. What is it in your background that makes you concerned about providing everybody access to education?
Well, I think the main thing, I guess you can just say as a social worker, our concern is about, our society, our communities, and being able to fully participate and take advantage of what we call America, and that is the opportunities that are here. And so pretty much, all the time when I was in school in San Diego, we started a program working with the school districts because we weren't getting Black students in the college. And, of course, San Diego State, even in those days, was fairly large. And so the university wasn't working with students, so we started programs through Black social workers and others to, recruit students and work with them. And I've been doing that, quite a while. It's important that we get our youth in a position where they can be able to provide for themselves and their families. And the number one way to do that is to be prepared by having a solid educational background. That's going to allow you to be flexible and be able to identify
and contribute because because we depend on each other to contribute. Well, there's a term that people often use, and it's like the word love. It's so easily misconstrued. The deficiency in access to education by Blacks, did that make you sour and want to get even and make you want white people to not get educated or anybody else not get educated because Blacks were not educated? Or were you thinking about emptying the cup or filling the cup?
Oh, no, it's always about filling the cup. So as I mentioned, our goal here was to work with all students. And so our main, the main things that we did in the programs I work with was to work with those that were most underserved, and that generally meant low-income students that was all low-income students. We have quite a few white low-income students in the Inland Empire.
Well, we wouldn't have a welfare program.
Of a better education, and so that's why I always tell people when you hear people talking about closing the education gap, and they make it on a racial basis, and I'm saying, well, that might be fine, but if we're supposed to be improving as blacks to be like whites in San Bernardino County, well, the whites in San Bernardino County aren't the highest prepared whites in the state. So therefore, we should be looking at an overall goal in terms of excellence and quality. And so that's what we targeted. How are we going to move students from where they were to be excellent students and better participants in the community?
So the ambiguity of the concept of getting even means to some people that, well, you're getting even, and in case of getting even, you're willing to draw everybody.
Yeah. Here we go with my dog.
Oh, yeah. That's okay. That's okay. Everybody should have a protector.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's not about getting even from that standpoint.
But we are wanting to, and then the other concept is, well, if everybody in the area is even and in the same position, that we should be happy. But you're pointing out that the standard of excellence should be based on the highest access to excellence possible, not the one that is just available, which may be excellent here, but that could be the bottom of a very short barrel.
Sure. Well, we always told our kids that that in order for you to improve yourself, you don't have to do that by putting somebody else down. And so it's quite the contrary. You lift yourself up and lift others up around you. We're all going to be better off. So that's the goal of what we did at Cal State San Bernardino.
Very good. Okay, and let me ask you one question before we go into this first break. That question being, is there a commitment by the California State University system to assure access to the college by students who have been underserved? Before you answer that, I want to take a break. Okay. We'll come back and let everybody kind of mull that around. You know, is that the responsibility, or should they be looking for students who can pay high tuition and make money for the school system so that they can pay administrators large amounts of money? Because I don't think they're paying teachers a lot of money. Oh, I don't want to give away my prejudiced feelings about how important it is for people to be educated, and how some of the people who are in charge of that think it's more important for them to get a new car. Maybe I said that wrong, but I'm going to go into a break. We'll be right back. We'll get a chance to speak to Mr. Walter Hawkins about the possibilities, probabilities, and need for all of our students to have access to the colleges, and should not the ones who live here locally have access to the college that's local, and should not the ones who've been most deprived of access, should they not be given a special shot? We'll be back.
Broadcasting more local radio programs than any other station in California, we are KCAA.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
Covered California knows that one moment can change your life. That moment you say I do. That moment you meet your baby for the first time. Or even that moment you lose your job and your health insurance along with it. For those times when life changes, we've got you covered. Covered California lets you choose from brand name health plans, and you may even get help paying for it. Your enrollment period is limited, so find out if you qualify by getting free expert help at coveredca.com today. Covered California. It's more than just health care. It's life care.
A journey of 1,000 words begins here. KCAA.
You can chase that Covered California down by going to coveredcc.com. Check on the availability of your enrollment possibilities. I'm Wallace Allen. This is Empire Talks Back. We're speaking with Mr. Walter Hawkins, a community activist, a community lover, a man who loves the city, the county, the Inland Empire, and the kids especially, because that's where he does most of his work. Walt, the question I asked before we went into the break was, has there been any statement of obligation or commitment by the state university system to provide access or to recruit black students or students who are most deprived or students that are closer to a college? What's the deal here? Why are we looking at Cal State San Bernardino's recruitment?
Well, the obligation or the goal of the system itself, as you mentioned, is to try to work to get everyone who's available that wants to go to college to be able to accommodate them. Unfortunately, at times we're not able to do that because there are more students who want to go to college than there are spaces for them throughout the state. And so the university system decided years back to be able to say, well, we need to give priority in helping these students with the school districts get prepared, and then once they're eligible, we can make a contract to promise them admission.
Let me get you to stop there. Some people will wonder, well, why are we worried about kids why are we worried about those kids? If we've got other kids that are doing well, that are getting straight A's, why do we worry about the kids that are not getting straight A's? Why are we concerned about having a population of people that that some are real smart and some are just not? And before we go on, I want to answer that question.
Well, basically, what we're saying is that it depends on what you said, who are real smart. Well, there are a lot of very smart African-American kids in this region. And what the difference is for some of them is that as they work through the school system, they weren't eligible to get into the university when they graduated because at some point in time in the 7th grade and 8th grade, they weren't on the right track. And so when they graduated, they had good grades, but they maybe missed a couple of classes. So what our goal is to identify those students who we know can make it in the university.
They didn't skip those classes. The classes were just not made available to them. That's what we're talking about, correct?
Well, it wasn't so much, even made available. They weren't counseled, and there was a variety of reasons. But the main point is they didn't meet that goal. And the most important thing that we did in the community in terms of some of our community educational organization was to try to make sure that the school districts got our kids into the right sequence. The most important course that they were not getting into, they weren't getting into the algebra class, and so the math classes was a big detriment because they weren't able to build on that and have that sequence met. And so that was the primary one, and there are a few others, but those are the main things. So we had to make sure that students get the right curriculum and they get the support so that when they graduate, they're eligible. Now, Cal State San Bernardino and the rest of the CSU, they don't have like a certain grade point per se. They have a sliding scale. So it's based on a combination of your GPA and your test scores. But basically, anybody who has a B average or better, they're automatically eligible for admission to the university. The problem was in a lot of communities, the universities weren't targeting those students because they just that just wasn't maybe a super important thing to them.
One of the things that many people...
It was their market because they had more people coming in the door. So therefore, they could use the word, quote, selective. And so what they were trying to do was be selective. But now the reason that it's more important is because the system has put in place what's called the Graduation Initiative 2025. So every university has a target in terms of what they have to reach. And so it's like a lot of situations. Some of the folks who look at that and they're evaluated on those things, they try to put the odds in their favor. So in trying to put the odds in their favor, that means they want the cream of the crop, and they don't understand that there's the cream goes very deep. So they just want to take the top of the cream. So what our goal is to say that, nope, if they're eligible and you promise that you're going to let them in, we need to do that. So that's part of the problem right now is that there are many students who want to go to school. They're not getting into the system, and that's part of what we try to turn around. And in most cases, we've been very successful in this region in doing that because the preparation level of African American students has increased significantly over time. And the other point is that in terms of the whole state of California, our region in San Bernardino Riverside has the second highest number of black students in K-12 than any other place in the state, only behind L.A. County. So their students are here. They need to be able to go to school. They've met the entrance requirements. Now we want to make sure the university keeps their promise.
Walt, who benefits from an educated person? Who's the beneficiary socially? Is this something that only benefits that person, or how does society benefit by having more African American students get to college and succeed?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. Number one is their ability to provide for their families. But number two, and if you look at it from a selfish perspective in terms of being a business person or whatever, you have more people available to take advantage of your services. So if you're out there as a business person, you offer a service or a value, have anything of value, and you want to have people who buy your goods and services, then you want to make sure that you have the best available. You want other people then to be able to have the ability to make those purchases. So that means that you have to have gainful employment.
How does it help us to be on a public bus or at a public amusement park or out on the street, and we have some kind of incident and we need help? Are we more apt to get help from somebody who is ignorant to help, someone who's been denied help all of their life, or someone who is actually participating in society, learning how to do CPR? I mean, Walt, I'm much more comfortable around people who have some sense of being, who have some sense of education, some sense of belonging. I don't think that young man who shot those students in Texas day before, had much of a sense of belonging or being or understanding what other people's rights are. I think there's a lack of education about other people and other people's rights. And when they complete high school and go to college, I know my experience was, for a long time, as a high school student, I kind of thought the world revolved around me. Getting away to college let me know that, hey, wait a minute, it doesn't. There's other people that are important. There's other things that are critical. You have a need for a community. The value of education isn't just for an individual. I'd like for you to talk about some of your experiences as you've seen people come and go and the growth that they've had as a result of education. Because some folks think that we're just fighting a color battle, a battle to get even, a battle to statistically get even. I think it's important for people to know that education is what helps to make the world a better place. I want to give you a little bit of time to think about that. We're going to take our next break, and when we come back, Walt, I just like to talk about the value of education so we get an understanding that we do not benefit when we hold people back from gaining the knowledge that can make them a real contributor to society. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen, speaking to Mr. Walt Hawkins, one of my heroes. We'll be right back.
Trifecta of Southern California radio, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM. Or just call 701-801-4444.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
Hello, everyone. I'm David Rodriguez, and for over 10 years I've been studying through scripture and experimentation how thoughts create our experiences. And now I'm ready to bring what I've learned to you on my show, The Truth Only Show, where we learn truth about ourselves, not opinions, and how we can improve our lives so everyone, young, old, religious, and atheists alike, listen to The Truth Only Show. Every Sunday at 1 p.m. on KCAA 1050 AM.
I'm young, active, and in the best shape of my life. But I still know life can change in an instant, and when it does, I want to be prepared. That's why I have a health care plan through Covered California, to cover life's unexpected moments. And having a plan that includes preventive care just makes sense. That means I don't pay extra for services like annual checkups, flu shots, and diabetes screenings. I like that.
Covered California. It's more than just health care. It's life care. Visit coveredca.com to enroll or find free expert help. Enroll by December 15th.
Thank you, Inland Empire, for listening to KCAA Radio.
We're back. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. We're speaking with Mr. Walt Hawkins. I'd like to make a quick statement to you. David Rodriguez and the Truth Only program will come on immediately after Empire Talks Back at 11 a.m. Somehow he said 1 a.m. in that promo, 1 p.m., but it's 11 a.m. Do not miss David. The Truth Only, it is something that will help you graduate into a new attitude, and that's really important. Walt, we're talking about the importance of education to everyone, and I'm just trying to set the table because I do want to get into exactly what's going on at Cal State in terms of their recruitment of African Americans and other poor students, other students who are disadvantaged and who need to get there not just for themselves, but to make San Bernardino, the Inland Empire, the world a better place. So, Walt, what's important about education?
Well, I think the main thing, Wallace, is anybody who's had the good fortune of being 40 or 50 years old right now can look back and see that from the time they were young and got out of high school till now, things have changed tremendously in this country. And mainly we're talking about the types of jobs that are available and the direction the country is going, or the world is going. And so one thing is we have more of a global economy, and number two, things are more technologically oriented. So the main reason that education is so important is that it helps one to be more flexible, so that education isn't just to get out of high school and go get a job or even go to college. The purpose of education is to help a person to be prepared to be able to be flexible and take advantage of things as they go, as time goes on. So we're always going to have to be educated. Our education doesn't stop after high school. So, but the idea is that once you have the love of learning, you're going to be able to be better prepared to be flexible and make changes as the society changes. So again, young folks that, when I grew up, got out of school, they went to the military or they worked at the cement plants up in the high desert. They made a lot of good money. My wife grew up in Flint, Michigan, where you could get out of high school, go work for Pontiac or GM or any of those companies and make a lot of money. As we know now, those jobs are gone. There's a different kind of thing that happens in those plants, and so you're no longer able to just walk from high school into those kind of jobs. So technology and global economy has made education more important to everyone. It's a requirement. You need it to be able to take care of yourself and your family.
Walt, we're looking now at Cal State San Bernardino, their recruiting policy, the high number of African American students that are eligible to go to Cal State San Bernardino. Obvious question to some folks is if they're not going to Cal State San Bernardino, maybe they're going someplace else. But let's talk about Cal State San Bernardino and the commitment as you know it, and whether it's a hardcore written commitment or a commitment based on your experience that says we're going to reach out for the local Inland Empire African American students and get them in college, Cal State San Bernardino in particular. Now, tell us about your background there. Why do you expect that San Bernardino, Cal State San Bernardino, should be spending more time recruiting African-American students to the college? And when I say that, understand, people, we're not just talking about them going out asking for these students. We're talking about dealing with the high number of applications that the students are actually presenting, and which indicates that there may be some choices made to actually exclude these students. I don't know if that's what you're saying, but I'm leaving that door open. Talk to us, Walt, about recruitment at Cal State.
What I'm saying is, again, speaking from my experiences, since this was the job that I did for 34 years, and spent 17 of those years evaluating them and looking at how we can make improvements, and being a part of the outreach and a part of the university enrollment management team, where we every year went through these numbers with a fine-tooth comb and made sure. So first of all, the main thing is that as universities grow, they are successful and students graduate. Also, some of the students who are coming to school, things happen and they drop out for a period of time. So essentially, what we know is that on any given year, the university must replace between 27 and 33% of their student body, and the main reason is because they've been successful to get a lot of those students to graduate. So as they've graduated, you have to have someone to replace them, because each campus has a budget that's targeted to enroll so many students.
Can we get an idea from you, Walt, how the ratio is between graduates and dropouts or students who transfer?
The ratio, well, essentially, what we're trying to do in the campus is pick up the goals. So basically, right now, the way it works is, just out of just the average of all the students that come in for different reasons, those who graduate in about a 6-year period in time is around 65% or so.
Okay.
Over time, that improves. So the university has a goal. Their first measurement is really at a 6-year, because people don't graduate in 4 years per se. There's a small amount that do. But the university...
You're just saying that to make me feel better about my 6 years, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. So the primary measurement is a 6-year goal, and then looking beyond. So between 6 and 10 years is when they kind of look at that. So right now, the first thing they do is try to get students in and retain them. So they're trying to look at, retention from 1 year to the next. And that, in order to be successful, that has to be in the high 80s and 90s if you're going to be able to build up a group of students that's going to be able to go. I'm talking about freshmen now, who start off in the university and then are going to go ahead and stay there and get their degree. And so just in looking back at how that works is you have to have a good first year. So if you start off and you already know how it's going to work by looking at the success of those students who come in the first year and return for the fall term of the next year. That's your first measurement that we look at. And then from there, as we build and follow those students over time, we have a real good idea of what happens to them. So as we go back and look at those students, we look at the kind of courses they took, their preparation, and things of that nature. So what we found in the CSU and a lot of other four-year universities was that a lot of students, especially students who were non-white students, they weren't getting the proper preparatory classes in high school, and therefore they spent their first year in a lot of remediation courses. In other words, they had to take remedial classes in math and English in order to meet the college-level requirements to get into those.
From your experience on the Rialto Unified School District, what's the rationale for students not getting on the right track? What occurs that stops them from being on the right track? What do the high schools need to do to be, or should I say the middle schools, do to be sure that these kids are on the right track?
Well, I think it starts from, really the policy of the board. So the most important part is the attitude of the school board, because they're the ones who basically are responsible for making sure the policies of the district are followed. And so almost you can't find any high school district that says that they don't want their students to be successful. But what happens in terms of the nitty-gritty is that, again, as you mentioned in middle school, there some kids are not put into that to the right courses. When I grew up and you grew up initially, we know we had things in high school called tracking. And so, you had people who weren't ever going to go to college. You had people who might have an opportunity, and then you had that college prep student. And they were all treated a little bit differently. But in today's world, everyone has opportunity to take the whole curriculum. So that's what we have to do. So the main thing is really making sure that school districts get kids into the curriculum at the right point in time.
What is one of the main elements in doing that? And I'm speaking about counselors, I suppose. I don't want to make it a mystery.
Yeah, well, I said, like right now, just from my research over time, what we found out is that really the most important gatekeeper class is mathematics. So kids were not getting into the math sequence, and that probably hurt them more than any other course pattern. And a lot of students will say, well, why do I need math? I'm gonna, do this or do that or whatever.
No, the world tells.
Why, but the point is that in my experience, in my research, and what I looked at over time, that was the most important class. Because like at Cal State San Bernardino, when we had to do remedial work before, we started trying to do outreach and get kids ready earlier, the math department at the university had 45% of their course pattern, their courses offered in any fall term was in math, in remedial math.
Mm-hmm.
And then English did the same thing. They had, but it wasn't quite as high. So the university, that means that a student wastes a year in time because those courses that you're taking in remediation don't count toward graduation.
Right. So you saw that problem.
It makes you eligible for financial aid, but they're basically preparatory courses that get you ready to go into the college level classes.
Right. So we saw that as an issue 205, 204 early on, and you've done some work to change that impact because now we're getting more of our kids to actually graduate and be eligible to go to a four-year school. So the problem we were just discussing is something that we discovered in the past and has actually worked on and caused some level of improvement to the point of where we're now with many more African American students ready to go to college upon high school graduation.
Yeah. Well, let's just say, for example, looking in our area, here in this region, into two counties. So over the 10-year period, as far as just black students themselves, those students in Riverside County who've gone from just the regular course pattern to the college prep class, African American student participation has increased by 72%.
My goodness.
In San Bernardino County, that same group of black students who were taking college prep courses by the time they graduate has increased by 41%. So all told, in our region, out of the 4,500 black students that have graduated, 57% of them are eligible to go to the CSU by virtue of their courses that they've taken in high school. So that's a big pool of students that you're doing. Unfortunately, during that same period in time at Cal State San Bernardino, and I'm measuring based on the last year, fall of 2017, the university only enrolled 108 black freshmen. So let's just put it this way: if you take 108 black freshmen, and that's what we call the cohort, and you follow them over 6 years, well, what does that mean? That means if 60% of them graduate, that's only, maybe looking at roughly, it's around in numbers,
62 people.
We're saying. Based on what's happening right now in terms of that group that came in. So what is that contributing to our community when we have only 60 black
Let me make a suggestion, Walt, as to what that actually contributes.
Yeah.
And let me make a suggestion as to what that really refers and reflects back to. Because the years are short, though we've moved quickly. The years are short. The fact that we are institutionally still resisting the concept of making something special about the need to educate African American students ignores the fact that America thought it was a very special and necessary, to the point of making a law that made it against the law to teach black people how to read. Now, how we accept that and remember that is important, because that is also one of the bases for saying, yeah, we have provided special treatment to African Americans in the past of a negative sense, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to provide special attention to African American students in a positive sense. And and as we've discussed it, okay, go ahead.
How that works, okay? So it's a real simple thing in its basic concept, and that is, if you're trying to talk about, what we've talked about around this country over the last few years, of course, is the income gap and the achievement gap in terms of income levels in our communities, and that gap has grown wider in some cases. So even though we see President Trump talking about how great it is to have, under 4% black unemployment, and trying to take credit for it when
during slavery it was 100%.
But here's the difference: every single year you measure that, there's a gap. So in his goal, hey, blacks are going down, Hispanics are going down. But what he forgets to say is, oh, whites are going down too. So the relationship between black unemployment and white unemployment is that blacks are still 2.5 times more likely to be unemployed than a white person. And so again, that's the importance of why education is going to, make a difference in terms of their preparation. So that's just putting it on a national scale. On a local level in the state of California, we measure equity based on a real simple thing. It's kind of like the number that comes out should be the number that goes in. So we look at it proportionately. So in our region, if we're graduating 9% black students, then your freshman class at San Bernardino should be no less than 9% African American. So in the period that we're talking about in terms of this drop, African American students at Cal State San Bernardino have gone down from a 13% of the whole university enrollment to only 4.8 or 5% right now. So that's a drop. So again, while the university itself has increased its enrollment by 20%, Hispanic students have increased by 110%. Black students have decreased by 47%. So the university is going backwards in terms of blacks. So to me, what that says is, oh, San Bernardino, we have a problem. So it's just a real simple thing. If your goal is to have equity based on proportionality, which means you're not favoring one group over another, based on the fact that most of our schools in California now, especially Southern California, are non-white districts. And most of them average about 65% Latino. And then in our Southern California area, it might be 8% black. Some areas are higher. For example, in the high desert, Rialto, Victor Valley, some of those, Apple Valley, they have a higher proportion. So there's only 7 districts in our county of San Bernardino that have about 80%, 75% of all blacks. So if you're going to do some targeting and looking at it recruiting, then number one, you have to know the background and the demographics. So the first thing...
Walt, it appears that they're doing that targeting, and we're going to take a short break, but it appears to me that targeting is taking place, but not for the sake of bringing the students in, but for the sake of keeping them out. And we can look at the statistic and we can try to explain it one way or another, but the point boils back down to an observer from my standpoint is that somebody in charge at Cal State San Bernardino has decided that getting black students on campus is not only not a priority, but it's probably something that they just don't want to do. I'm going to take this short break, and when we come back, Walt, you can either tell me I'm wrong or you're going to help me and the rest of us figure out who at Cal State is trying to keep black students out of Cal State San Bernardino. This is Wallace Allen, Empire Talks Back, and we've got a problem that we can solve right away, folks, and we're going to do it when we come back.
Today, yesterday, last week, check out our podcasts at www.kcaaradio.com. We leave no listener behind.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
I never planned on losing my job, but we all know life can change in an instant. And losing my family's health insurance was an even tougher pill to swallow. So I looked into Cobra, but too pricey. Then I found out I could enroll through Covered California, where I was able to choose from good health insurance companies I've actually heard of. I even got help paying for it.
There's a limited time to qualify after losing your insurance, so check out CoveredCA.com today. Covered California. It's more than just health care. It's life care.
The other station claims to be local. Since when is Glendale local? KCAA, your true local station.
This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. We're here listening to Mr. Walt Hawkins explain to us numerically, statistically, that African American students in the San Bernardino Unified School District are doing much better with their graduation rate. They're doing much better because some of the things that the San Bernardino Unified School District did to change their policy to help black students get ready to complete their high school obligation and move on to four-year college has worked. They have put together a system that has allowed our graduation rate to go up, and not just graduate, but actually be prepared to go to college. They have done quite a bit at the San Bernardino Unified School District level. What's going on at the Cal State San Bernardino level that they are not acknowledging, or they are acknowledging, but they're not absorbing these students? What is going on there with the policy, Walt? Can you explain it, or do we need to go talk to somebody else?
Well, I think I can get you on the right track, but let's go. I'll answer your question that you asked about who's responsible. Well, let's be very rhetorical. If you are the head of an organization, the head of that organization, no matter what industry you're in, they're responsible. They're ultimately responsible.
I just heard the leader at Starbucks say that if you need to go into Starbucks and sit around, it's okay. Anybody that walks in the door is a customer. He's made a policy change because of understanding the problem that the old policy was having. So I live here and I understand, but I don't know everybody personally. Who's in charge at Cal State San Bernardino?
Well, the president is Dr. Morales, Tomas Morales. Right now, he's been there since 2012. Came from the New York area and has a good background because prior to going back to New York, he also worked for a time at Cal Poly Pomona. So he's very, familiar with the system and has been involved in it for a while.
Well, kind of making a projection, like we all do. Mr. Morales sounds like, should be a guy friendly. He sounds like he's from, the Hispanic neighborhoods and neighbor community that has suffered lack of access, and one who should be understanding. So, as he's in charge there, have we spoken to him about this issue?
Oh yeah, the West Side Action Group, along with other community organizations, we've been meeting with the universities over time since like 1978. So it's not new to the West Side Action Group, especially. And I happen to be the chair of the WAG Education.
West Side Action Group is a 35, 36-year-old group of
men.
More,
yeah. We've been in, since 1972, WAG has been involved. And the main purpose that WAG had is number one, is to, try to make sure that we've got people who are able to get jobs and do well. We want to make sure that we have adequate representation on the political level. And then we also are concerned about education as one of our main objectives. And so during our last retreat, the reason that we're working on these issues is that education was one of the top areas that the community wanted us to work on and us to deal with. So as a result of that, we've met with, over time, representatives of various colleges in the area, Cal State being one. Recently, those talks hadn't gone as well, so there's been a lack of real follow-up.
Let me ask this, Walt. I know that the West Side Action Group and the community group has obviously been working to do this, to change this policy at the San Bernardino Unified School District level. And what you're telling me is that we have been successful with the school district in that the school district's policy now allows us to see graduates at this level that are prepared for college. How upset are they at the San Bernardino Unified School District that all of the good work that they've done to create these students and make them available and eligible for graduation to go straight to a four-year school, how disappointed are they at that level, and what are they saying and doing about it?
Well, I don't know how disappointed they are, so that's why we're going to give them giving them our report. That's why WAG put together a report that's going to all administrators in the area, educators and others, but especially to the school district and board members, and we will follow up with them. So, for example, as we've worked over the years with San Bernardino, all the districts, but primarily San Bernardino, and we specifically had a report that was authored about 3 years ago on African American students, primarily dealing with the expulsions and suspensions and things of that nature. So the system itself is prepared to address those issues. So now what we are trying to do is to just give them some feedback on some of the outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
The university, Cal State San Bernardino, has what we call a memorandum of understanding with a lot of the school districts. And basically, just to kind of summarize what that means, is that if your students graduate and they have all the requirements, then we're going to admit them. And additionally to admitting them, we're going to make sure that we're going to try to make sure they have a good financial aid package, and in some degrees, we're going to try to work with some of them to see if we can get them student assistant jobs around campus when they're there.
So we could say then your report will arm the San Bernardino Unified School District and the other local school districts with the information that lets them know that despite this memo of understanding, the high number of graduates who are eligible to go directly to four-year school, Cal State San Bernardino in particular, are not being absorbed by the current policy at Cal State San Bernardino. Do you have any idea when you will be providing that report to to San Bernardino Unified School District?
Probably within the next 2 weeks, we'll be getting it out. So what we're going to actually try to do is work through, the best way that we do it is we try to work through the top levels. And so, every county has a superintendent of schools, and then that superintendent works with all the districts. In our county, there's about 32 school districts. Of course, all of them aren't high school districts. But anyway, so we'll be working at that level to make sure that every superintendent gets it, and also there's an association of school board members. So we're going to make sure that all the school board members get it, and then a lot. It's going to be available to anybody who wants it.
Let's keep it at the
targeting educators.
Let's kind of keep it at the top, Walt,
for them to see what the results have been over the last 10 years.
Who is the superintendent of schools in the county of San Bernardino?
Ted Alejandra.
And there's an election this year, and he's running unopposed. Is that not correct?
Maybe so.
And so that means we kind of figured that he's a pretty good guy. Nobody's opposing him, and that he's got an open agenda. And we will want to talk with him and see how he feels about this situation. Do you have any idea of what his policy or statement is on this memo of understanding and his expectations that it would be fulfilled?
They're not directly involved in it from the county level, but he works with those districts. So
that's his reputation.
And I've worked with him over the years, and on their committees, their goal has been to make sure that districts are prepared to do everything they can. And they're, as a county superintendent, they're prepared. Their departments are prepared to provide whatever support they can to school districts to do these things.
So we can.
The main objective of the county schools, though, is they're the ones that are in charge of really monitoring the spendings of all the districts and making sure that things are going well
in
terms of that level. But they also, work on other issues. And so,
quite frankly, his reputation is based on how well the schools do, and that is really why people vote for him. They don't really concern themselves with the administration. If our schools are raggedy, there's going to be somebody fighting for that position of county superintendent of schools, and there's nobody fighting for it. That means people are thinking that we've got a good leader and someone who is going to be taking care of our schools at the school level. I know that's where my thoughts are. Walt, the point that I want to make as we close the show, and we never have enough time, this quickest hour on radio, that we have students that are eligible for college. We have a college that has said that it will look forward to accepting these students. We have a study that you have completed that demonstrates, despite the fact that these students are ready and available, and despite the fact that we've had a policy for years to reach out for these students, that enrollment for African American students is going down. Is that correct?
Yep.
We want to do something about it. We're going to follow your report. I've got about 10 seconds to go. I want to thank you, Walt, for your love of our community and your demonstration of such with your constant evaluation of what's going on to our benefit and to the detriment of those who force us to not get what we need. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. We're here on the Case for Truth and Justice. We'll be back next week under two circumstances. One, if the good Lord's willing. Two, if the creek don't rise. I suggest you learn how to swim just in case. We'll be right back. You guys stick around. Don't forget, don't miss the Truth Only Show. Mr. David Rodriguez is going to be right here at 11 o'clock. Not 1, at 11. Don't miss it.
50 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
Games on tap for today involving the Golden State Warriors and the Vegas Golden Knights. First up on NBC and NBC Sports Radio, Game 5 from Winnipeg with Marc-Andre Fleury and the expansion Vegas Golden Knights, 1 win away from the Stanley Cup Final.
The last one's always the toughest to get, and